All right, welcome back to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Coast, or GMC Tweet of the Night. And you can see this is from NFL on CBS. Big time football guy. This is from George Pickens. Sometimes I don't even sleep. I'll pull all-nighters just thinking about football. There's no question the Steelers have a lot of football nerds, football junkies. Do you think that just because Mike Tomlin likes to get guys that are like him, because obviously he's a football junkie too?
First of all, do we really think George Pickens is up there pulling all-nighters just thinking about posts?
He said he is.
What a weird quote. Buddy, you need to sleep. Sleep is important. Get a nice square 8 hours of sleep. Joe Burrow's not thinking about football all night, up all night. He's getting 10 hours of sleep. He's like an old man waiting for the blue plate special at Old Country Buffet or something. I don't want my wide receivers not getting enough sleep because they're up all night thinking about football. That's why God invented melatonin, Richie. What are we doing here? We need sleep aids for this guy. We don't need to encourage this habit.
I know he wants a big year this year, and hopefully Russell Wilson will help him achieve that. Let's go out to Bill in Delmont. How you doing, Bill? Bill, you there?
Yeah.
What's up?
Yeah. Hey, first-time caller. I was watching what you have tonight, and if you don't get to play Augusta, I can give you a substitute. Williamsburg, Virginia, Golden Horseshoe Golf Club, Gold Course, designed by Robert Trent Jones Sr., and then after he designed that, then he was asked to go up and redesign Augusta, and it's known as a kind of a second Augusta. Nothing's Augusta, but this can get close, and it's a worthwhile drive.
Williamsburg. All right, Mulsey, we should maybe take a drive there and play that course. I've never even heard of it, but
Richie,
I'm glad he called.
Richie, you got to give me like 6 pops aside at least.
I stink
if
right
you and
now,
I are
Chris.
going to. Oh, sure. And then suddenly, when the cards are on the table, here comes Richie Walsh draining 35-footers like they're Tappins. Yes, I know this routine. Usually I'm smart enough to team up with you on it so that I'm the beneficiary rather than the person having to hand over some hard-earned cash to you.
Well, good thing you weren't my teammate this weekend, because I stunk. I was awful. I feel bad for Jim Dockey, who was my teammate, and we lost. All right, let's go out to Randy out in West End. How you doing, Randy?
Good. How you guys doing tonight? I just wanted to make a comment on the Pirate game tonight. I believe that as long as Shelton's the manager and they have Chapman trying to close these games, they cannot win. I think both of those guys have to go. They got to release Chapman and fire Sheldon.
I'm not going to go overboard and fire Shelton right now, but the Chapman, I don't know where I stand with him right now. I'm still going to give it a little bit more time. I'm still hoping that there's some gas left in the tank here down the stretch.
The thing that's frustrating about Chapman is he's always been a guy occasionally prone to a little wildness, losing the release point. He almost lost the Cubs the World Series in 2016 because he just ran out of gas and could barely get the ball over. So we know how it looks when Aroldis Chapman's aiming the ball. Where he used to make up for that in his heyday, in his prime, was that his fastball was so absolutely unhittable and he could spot it close enough or in the zone enough that hitters had to challenge it. He would just get ahead of guys and be able to put them away with that. Now I think the fastball's lost a tick or two, at least on a consistent basis, and he seems to have been having trouble locating for the majority of the season, and that's a problem because he was a $10.5 million asset that you brought in hoping he would make your back end of the bullpen even better. And if anything, he's been more of a liability of late.
Yeah, it seems like a similar problem to Bednar, too, finding location. I mean, that's what makes him a great closer, Bednar, too. You can't have both these guys struggling at the same time.
I mean, Holderman looks like the best of those 3 back-end guys, and the only problem with him today was they sent him out for the second inning and he got tired because he got up near 30 pitches. But he's the one throwing his stuff with conviction. I do think Bednar has recovered. You could argue that Bednar really was just not ready physically because of the injury, because he's looked a little better of late. But, yeah, it's a fickle business. And to the caller's point about this idea that you want to fire Derek Shelton, I'll go back to my standard line here when it comes to baseball managers. Can anybody out there tell me who 5 really good managers are? Some people would say Craig Counsell, fine, I'll grant you that one. Some people would have said Terry Francona, okay, I would have told you that one's a fair one too. But what even makes a good manager anymore? GMs set the lineups or heavily influence the lineups in most cities. These guys all have a pretty defined sense of what their bullpen is or isn't. The DH is in both leagues. I'm asking this semi-rhetorically, but semi-seriously. What other than like the ability to motivate a bunch of guys through a long mental grind of a season defines or separates a good manager from just a run-of-the-mill guy or somebody who wouldn't even be in baseball?
Yeah, a lot
you know
of the good,
I mean?
a lot of the good managers. I mean, we could talk a little bit about Dusty Baker. A few other of these guys. They have great lineups. That's what makes them good managers when they have good players. And
was Joe Torre a great manager for those late 90s Yankees teams, or did they just have a lineup stacked to the gills in a rotation that had a bunch of guys who are Hall of Fame adjacent? I mean, Joe Torre might be one of the most overrated sports figures in this country because he just basically piloted a 747 Air Force One that had everything running on autopilot and just sat there holding the controls like this.
I always said, and I always think, that a manager might be responsible for 5 to 10 games a year, period, wins and losses. It's the players that are responsible. It's the players out on the field. That's
like
who you can blame it on. I mean,
So Chapman walks guys and Holderman gives up a run on a weird play where I think Bart made the right play. But who really cost them this game? Was it Derek Shelton leaving in Chapman too long, or was it Brian Reynolds potentially just muffing a ball in the outfield that turns a single into a double and turns first and third into a tie game? I mean, I can't pin that on Shelton. How is that his fault?
Yeah, I agree. Let's go out to Tom in Crafton. How you doing, Tom?
Hey, guys, good evening. About tonight's game, I've been watching baseball for God only knows how many years, and what's happened to baseball, I despise baseball now, and tonight's game's an example. Here's a concept, guys. You talk about bringing Holderman back out into the ninth inning for his second inning of pitching. So who pitched the seven? Was it Hunter Stratton? Hunter Stratton got him out 1, 2, 3, and I think he only threw 10 or 11 pitches. So why couldn't Shelton just go against protocol, bring him back out in the eighth inning, and see what happens? No, he's got to bring in his specialist, his eighth inning specialist, Aroldis Chapman. So,
yeah, Tom, I don't disagree with you there.
I'm wondering how much
That's a great point. I mean, it is a great point.
Well, I'm wondering how much of that was influenced by the fact that the first batter Chapman saw was a left-hander, and they thought that was worth the juice was worth the squeeze there. He might face a couple righties, but he'd get one out on the lefty, and then, of course, he lost him when he was 0-2 and then couldn't throw a strike. I'm wondering how much that was influenced. Otherwise, I kind of get it, because if you're going to have Holderman close the game all along, and that was the plan, and Stratton mowed him down in the seventh, if you felt really good about Stratton and you wanted Holderman to close, then I actually can see the caller's point. The only argument, without having heard Shelton after the game, I could imagine otherwise, was left-hander to start the eighth inning. They liked lefty on lefty.
Let's go to John in Butler. How you doing, John?
Hi, first-time caller. Casey Stengel always said, give me the horses and I will win. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, you need the players. There's no question about it. Dave out in South Park. How you doing, Dave?
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Question. Shelton. You guys are talking about Shelton. Chapman is obviously not the guy. And Rowdy Tellez is not the guy. When do you make changes that make sense for the Pirates? I'm an aggravated fan, and I just wonder.
Yeah, Dave, I think a lot of people aggravated. I mean, the one thing with Rowdy Tellez, if you're not going to DFA him, just keep him on the bench. I mean, just keep him around. I guess.
He's wasting, but he is wasting a roster spot.
He
I think
is.
there's more reason to believe that Aroldis Chapman's going to get his release point and everything else back in his consistency, and still for the next several months or however long you want to keep him before you trade him, be a useful reliever. His track record suggests as much. There is far less evidence to suggest that Rowdy Tellez is going to be a useful Major League Baseball player. And they have other options. They have a guy in AAA that's a left-handed bat. He's a journeyman, but that would look like great. That would look like a great player, really, next to what Tellez has been. He's the one that I just don't understand their unwillingness to part with.
Yeah, $3 million. That's probably the big thing. All right.
No comment.
Yeah.
If it's honestly, no. I will say this, and I don't think that it's actually the money at all. If $3.2 million is grounds for we have to keep trotting this guy out there, what are we doing here? I don't think that is what it is, but if I've got any inkling that it was related to the fact that they gave him over $3 million, I would be tearing my non-existent hair out.
All right, we got to take a break. Back with more of your phone calls and wrap this thing up coming up next.